Dias Gunners Collective TV. Back at it? You already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Bye up. Bye up. In the Menudo style in direct fashion, we're going to get straight into the content of the day. But before we do, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I'm caking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel and it's all because of you. And for that, I can say I'm very humbled and I'm very much so appreciative. So, what's all the rah-rah, man, about what's going on in Aurora, Colorado, right? Well, let me tell you guys something. Here's a little update. The update is, ain't shit going on. Okay, this is all a political witch hunt. This is all a situation that they're putting tapatio on. Hey, yo quiero tapatio. Not mild salsa. They're putting tapatio on. And I'm going to explain to you why the situation is. First and foremost, man, everyone's all over the place with this. The Hells Angels are pulling up. They're going to they got their capes and they're going to protect the American way. That is furthest from the truth. And I'm going to explain to you why. First of all, there's already chapters in Colorado of the Hells Angels, so they don't got to pull up anywhere. They're already there. If they were going to take a chance in basically pulling up and doing something to save this apartment complex that is supposedly taken over or taken over by a Venezuelan gang, don't you think they would have already been there and done that? This situation could have been handled and the fire could have been turned out immediately. It wouldn't have took, 500 Hells Angels from California and from Canada and from all over these places are going to congregate and come here just to save a whole bunch of low-income housing. It doesn't work that way. It's not beneficial for the Hells Angels. Now, let me explain to you something. Back in the days, 70s, 60s, 70s, 80s, even early 90s, the Hells Angels had a very notorious name. And they did a lot of things in the public view that made people scratch their head. But they also do a lot of things in the public view that the people don't recognize. This is not a gang, it's a club, okay? When they do toy drives, they put their support merch out. They go out there and help communities. When they do rallies and bike rallies and all these different things, no one seems to recognize that. They only recognize the bad in the Hells Angels name. They only recognize the notorious nature of what the group used to be known for in the past. But it's not like that anymore. There's always going to be outlaws within the collective of that club. But at the end of the day, the majority of that group are 9-to-5ers that just want to ride, be with their brothers, and protect the integrity of their club and where they live. It's pointless to go involve themselves in something that really doesn't involve them. Okay, so when people are saying, oh, the Hells Angels, to me, when they mentioned the Hells Angels group pulling up, I kind of scratched my head. You know, was this supposed Venezuelan gang infringing on their territory? Was this an apartment complex where maybe some of their personal family lived, so they felt it, a reason to pull up? You know, at the end of the day, I think social media is very powerful. And when people spread rumors, people just run with it. Okay, now let me give you a little back history of what I've seen on the Aurora, Colorado incident. You know, from the video clipping that I've seen, and I know there's been a couple new ones that have been posted. It looked like 4 or 5 individuals knocking on a door and didn't look like they were kicking a door in. Didn't look like they were snatching people up. Now, I seen a couple of them carrying firearms. One guy had a rifle. The other one had a pistol. And they knocked on this door, and it looked like they were granted entry. Now, according to social media and big media, this Venezuelan gang of immigrants are taking over an apartment complex. Do you really, in your right state of mind, think that would be allowed? Period. Okay, it doesn't matter how many firearms they got. The United States doesn't negotiate with terrorists nor street terrorists. It just doesn't happen. Okay, so there would be no way that these people would be able to basically infiltrate an apartment complex and basically New Jack City it. You know, you guys remember the movie New Jack City when Nino Brown and the Cash Money brothers went in there and started snatching people up out their pad? This all shit now. They deboed everyone out the spot, right? This ain't one of those moves. This is a situation where maybe it was an isolated incident that happened. Maybe someone owed someone something, or for whatever reason, and big media jumped on it because it's all a ploy to distract people from what's really going on. Now, MS-13, man, is a very well-known gang that basically is situated in every part of the world, but their stronghold is in El Salvador, Guatemala, right? And those guys were pretty much eradicated. Not all the way, but there's a lot of them incarcerated. There was a mass incarceration in El Salvador. That new super prison was built. So no one in their right state of mind wants to even function as an MS member in that country, because if you're even caught with a tattoo of a cross, you'll get snatched up. There's people that left that lifestyle in that gang years ago that are getting snatched up and given life in prison in the Supermax, and made to, basically function with their opposition, their lifelong enemies. I mean, it's crazy the way these guys are being treated. They're basically being eradicated in El Salvador, parts of Guatemala, Honduras, all that. So the ones that do still survive on the East Coast, California, and all these different states, yes, they function as a street gang, but as an organization, they were very crippled when that president, in El Salvador decided to basically snatch every member or known or associate or even people that aren't known as members up and throw them in that Supermax prison. So now this Venezuelan gang, and I've never heard of a gang from Venezuela, and I'm sure there's gangs from everywhere. I know that for a fact. There's gangs from everywhere. There's, because one guy was on the live last night. We were doing a live, and he was like, I'm from Venezuela, and I've never heard, show me some graffiti, show me a Venezuelan gang. But, I have to disagree with him, because even though I'm not from Venezuela, I know that gangs migrate everywhere. There's a heavy influence of the gang lifestyle in every country: Japan, China, Venezuela, Cuba, Colombia. I mean, gangs are everywhere. Okay, so it's not far-fetched to believe that there could be a gang from Venezuela. As far as the MS-13's influence on Venezuela, I have no idea, right? But it's funny that big-time media are basically saying these guys are MS-13 members that overtook this apartment complex. Does it benefit someone's agenda? Well, it does. For a while now, the government, the world, has been at odds with MS-13 because they were the gang that were utilized and put out there politically as the group that was terrorizing the streets, terrorizing society and communities. Now, they're not the only ones, okay? But they were just the ones that were put on basically Front Street. And to automatically associate these guys with MS-13, I mean, what are the clues here? In the video that I seen, these guys weren't wearing no clothing or colors that would identify themselves as MS-13. They weren't wearing no paraphernalia or colors that would even identify them as Venezuelan immigrants that were overtaking an apartment complex. Now, on one side, the political agenda is, the influx of all these migrants coming over these borders, man, military age, men, gang members, ex-convicts that were released from prison that are infiltrating basically the infrastructure of our great country, right? These guys are a threat. And I understand, anyone coming over illegally would be looked at as a threat. Even though traditionally, even my family members have always came over from Mexico to just work and provide. Okay, now, when people think borders, they automatically think the Mexican border and that these guys are crossing through that way. But there's a lot of borders. There's the Canadian border. There's overseas. There's different ways that immigrants come from different countries. Some are allowed in because they do it the right way, or they're exiled from their country, and the United States opens their gates, man, to show them, basically to take them in when they're exiled. A lot of these countries play by different rules. So a lot of these guys that are sent here that just want to work and make a better life cannot go back to their countries because they're executed in their countries, or they're looked at as traitors. It's a cowardice act to leave your country or be exiled and then try to come back. Even though a lot of these guys that come don't know the first thing about the United States and don't even want to be in the United States in the first place. But a lot of them get here, recognize, man, it's a land of opportunity, a land of many freedoms. And so they work and they take care of their family. They raise their children. They have children here that become American citizens, and the beat goes on. So when I see and I hear this argument of they're just sending nothing but gang members over here and they're taking over apartment complexes and they're doing all this and that, I call bullshit, right? I don't believe every one of them are doing that. Now, I believe there are some things that are going to happen. I believe, People need to do it the right way, just so that way our safety and security is not compromised in this country. But I don't want to really get into the specifics and to be Pacific, or the Pacific to be specific, or the politics of the matter. The fact is, it looks like this whole incident right here is a fabrication in the mind of someone who wants to make one side look bad. Now, of course, you're going to have one side saying, see, we told you so. These guys come over, they overtake shit. They're doing bad things. They're bringing in drugs and all this type of things. And then there's another group saying it never happened. Okay, that isn't what it is. Now, I'm here to tell you straight up, man. I'm a firm believer in the greatness of our country, but I'm also kind of a connoisseur when it comes to gangs. Having been a gang member my whole life, man, and living, that street life in and out of prison, I could tell you first and foremost, pretty much the intricacies and the details into a lot of the mentality and the thinkings of the ways of a gang member. Okay, the way that video looked in Aurora, Colorado, and for those of you that don't even know, you've been sleeping under a rock and haven't seen for the past few days what is being alleged. It's being alleged that MS-13 gang members from Venezuela, immigrants that came over illegally, basically all congregated together and took over an apartment complex. Why? Why would they do this? What does it benefit them? And then it is also being alleged that the Hells Angels decided just out of the blue to strap capes on, a Superman patch right here, and all pull up to eradicate these gang members. Now, there's a lot of gangs that have overtaken or overtake hoods, streets. I mean, we've seen the Rodney King riots, just for an example, in LA. Did you see any Hells Angels come to the defense of any white man that was getting hit with the brick? Did you see the Hells Angels pull up, to other incidences that have happened? Absolutely not. Why? Because it doesn't benefit their club. It's not what they're into. Why would they all come together and then announce their presence? One thing I know about the Hells Angels is they don't play checkers, they play chess. There's no gang or no group or no club that's been around and has the reputation of a biker club like the Hells Angels that would put their own people, their own brothers, their own families, their own homeboys in jeopardy and announce that they are pulling up, just to be captured when they got there or just to get it shut down. Do you understand that if there was really a situation where this immigrant gang, this Venezuelan MS-13 gang that the big time media is saying took over an apartment complex, there would have to be a rhyme or reason. And believe me, the law enforcement presence would be heavy. Just the other day, man, I was cruising and I think it was a type of a hostage situation was going on. It was a domestic issue that escalated. Man, there was like 20 cop cars there. Okay, for that one little incident. Now, I don't know how big this apartment complex is in Aurora, Colorado. I've never been there. But one thing I could tell you for sure, there's no way. This is not a Waco situation. Okay, we've seen one little video of a few guys with guns pulling up to one apartment. Now, maybe these guys are not from this country. Maybe these guys in particular, just decided that someone in that house owed them something. I don't know. But it wasn't like there was several videotapes of every apartment getting taken over. Don't you think we'd have interviews with the people that were snatched up from these houses? Unless it's a hostage situation, I don't see that happening. And why? Why would a group like the Hells Angels even stick their nose in that business when it's none of their business? And basically, that's not the type of situations they involve themselves in. This group, this supposed group, this imaginary group and gang, is being spoken on, and no one seems to know exactly what's going on. They just know little details here and there. At the end of the day, the truth of the matter is, this shit is fabricated. I believe in every city, man, gangs dwell. Shit happens. People try to make their next move their best move. Well, here's some knowledge you can't get in college. What you see and what you hear on social media and big time media isn't always what it is. It ain't always what it's cracked up to be or the truth. Okay, the fact is, when I seen people saying, oh, the Hells Angels are going to pull up deep, they're going to tear shit up, they're going to handle business, it only takes them 10 minutes to get there. There are several chapters of Hells Angels already there. So why would it take a whole bunch of chapters from California and other states to pull up when the Voltos already have it under control if they wanted to? I've had a lot of uncles, even my father back in the days that, rubbed elbows with the Hells Angels, had good friends that were Hells Angels. And I remember as a kid, them pulling up to the pad, bikers. And, I didn't really know too much about bikers and what they had going on and wasn't involved in that. I was a little kid. It was my father's friends and my uncle's friends. But one thing I knew for sure is they weren't the ones to play with. They had a presence about themselves that you understood that, albeit they weren't violent, they could be. So I guess for whatever reason, someone decided to spec that rumor out there because they know the Hells Angels name rings bells. At least it does in the state of California and the West Coast. When you hear the Hells Angels club, you swivel. You keep your shit on swivel. Where they at? Where they at? Right? Because their name is synonymous with, being notorious. Now, I think that this whole situation, and from what I'm hearing now, it's being updated. People's stories are changing. Oh, it wasn't necessarily these guys taking over. It was more an isolated incident. Oh, it didn't happen. But if you notice, the players that they're putting in there are people that the feds have been watching for a very long time. Now, we know the Hells Angels have had situations with the feds quite recently. In Stockton, California, 3 months ago, one of their clubhouses was raided. And a lot of people were apprehended and snatched up for whatever reason, various reasons. I don't want to speak on that case because I'm sure it's ongoing and there's people fighting for their life. But at the end of the day, why would a group that has them type of situations going on, and I understand that every chapter, every charter is independent from each other, but do fly under the same flag. But why would they involve themselves in a situation that doesn't even affect them, okay, personally? Now, I understand if there are gangs of immigrants and groups that are undocumented coming over, taking over apartment complexes, people, citizens, civilians, then yes, someone has to step up for them. Someone should protect them. That's a fact. But at the end of the day, man, who says it's going to be the Hells Angels or a gang or a group when we're already all classified people that have lived that life into one box, right? And that is a box that society doesn't want to open. Why would one notorious group go out to take another one? I don't think the Hells Angels would ever want to have any type of conflict voluntarily with MS-13 just because. Not saying they would ever shy away or back down from any type of fight, period, because they're not built that way. They're built Ford tough. They're built Harley tough, full-breeded Indian, right? But at the end of the day, it just isn't in their best. There's nothing they could benefit from it, okay? Now, as far as the MS-13 label being used, why every time something big goes on, they always say MS-13 members did it? There's other Raza gangs, okay? I'm not going to mention the other gangs, but there are other ones. Why does it always seem that this group in particular are the ones that are targeted? It's for political gain. It's because they're one of the biggest, most treacherous groups. So they basically place blame on them constantly. Now, whether I'm full of shit or not, and you could call bullshit, and there is something going on in Aurora, don't you think it would have been handled by now? Don't you think that the law enforcement would have utilized this situation and shut it down themselves without the help of the Hells Angels to explain to people how they're holding it down in their state and in their city? I don't know too much about Colorado, but one thing I do know is just like every other state, California, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, states that I've been to and I've traveled to, they don't play. There is a gang influence there. But you're telling me that this group of basically paisas, because that's what it is, just took over a whole fucking apartment complex and no one did shit. No one tried to fight back. No apartments got lit on fire. No shots rang out. So they were just going in there from apartment to apartment, laying people down, no kids crying. On that video, I didn't hear a kid cry, no one say no screaming, no yelling. I seen a couple guys with guns knock on a door and were allowed inside. Now, I don't know about you, but I know if people knock on my door with guns and I can look through the peephole or the Ring camera, I'm not allowing them in, right? So for people to jump to conclusions and say, and it immediately went from what could quite possibly be a home invasion or something as simple as that, which ain't nothing good about that, to, a whole group of MS-13 gang members. And you see how the label started to add. They started to add them later. But first it was Venezuelan gang members, immigrant gang members, undocumented gang members, MS-13 gang members, right? That guess what? The Hells Angels are coming, right? This shit turned into a fucking Deadpool movie quick. They started to involve any type of group that they could. And it's trying to make, I'm thinking there's something we're missing here and a reasoning behind it. And then it hit. The election's coming soon. There has to be some type of diversion tactic or something going on to make one or the other side look bad at this time. That's what it is. Anyways, man, the update is this. This is bullshit. There's really not a situation like this going on. I think this was blown out of proportion. I believe that this situation doesn't warrant all the attention it's getting, but it does give you a glimpse into what could quite possibly happen if our borders are open and we're allowed to just let anyone in. It gives people a diagram, a recipe, a demo to look at and say quite possibly maybe they can do something like this in the future. Will it ever happen? Like I said, man, domestic issue, 20 cops that quick within 5 minutes. I don't see how a whole fucking apartment complex being taken over didn't warrant the attention of several authorities. Why are we not seeing it on CNN or Fox or any of these big news stations or even social media, TMZ? Why are we not seeing all these 500 Hells Angels pull up on bikes? That's pretty loud. They ride deep, right? Why are we not seeing this? Why are we only seeing this one little clip that's being played over and over again to basically, show you propaganda? I don't know. You guys let me know what you think, man. Did I hit it? Am I dead on? Or am I full of shit? One thing I know is salute, respects to the Hells Angels, man. I know they don't shy away from any fight, and they've never been that one, but I don't see why they would pull up for a fucking couple dudes with an AK trying to take over a damn apartment building. That's on them, man. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming, and remember, at the end of the day, it's all about the strive to struggle, the struggle to strive. I'm going to continue to do what I do, man. Salute. This is the gun. Bang, bang.